I'm recording this to take it back up to New York. I'll tell you one thing about New Yorkers right now. They love to hear me talk. I don't know what it is, but this is like I would consider this my home church. This is the first church I remember going to as far back as I can remember. When I think in my mind of church, this is what I picture because this was my first memory of what church is. I was saved right here. I see a lot of people I know. The older you get, the more people you used to know, it seems like. But really, that's not a good way to put it because we still know them, don't we? I mean, as long as we're alive, we know those people. I still see Preacher Watley and Cordy, Preacher Gallion, Preacher Compton, Melvin, Harvey, and Jerry McCarter. All these people are as alive in my mind as anytime I need to see them, the little portion of my mind that keeps them there just turns right there like they were standing right behind me. And they're not really gone anyway, you know. That's what Jesus, because of Jesus, we don't have to end any sentences with gone anymore. It's, where are they gone? Well, they've gone home, you know. And we're going home. We're here in the wilderness now, but we're not lost in the wilderness. We have a light to follow. So, Dad said y'all might be interested to know what happened to me. I said, well, I don't know if we got time for that, but I will say it's been a long, wild, crazy ride. It's had a lot of pain, mostly self-inflicted. I had a lot of pleasure. The thing about as you get older, things get put into perspective. And, you know, we really are so lost without God. We don't even really know what pleasure is apart from Him. Something as simple as pleasure. We have no idea. And I think as we get older, I think it only comes as you get older that you start to realize that it's only those gifts of God that give you true pleasure. And I've had some success. I've wanted to be a writer since I learned to read, really. I've been published in books and magazines. Writing has taken me all over the country, really, from New York to Little Rock to San Diego, Los Angeles, Seattle. I've read poetry in front of thousands of people. I've shared the stage with legends of poetry and literature like Buddy Wakefield, Puma Pearl, George Wallace. Y'all probably don't know who any of those people are. That's the funny thing about writing. You measure out your success as a writer a little different. You do it in smaller doses. When a person says, I'm going to be a writer, it's different than as if a person might say, I'm going to be a plumber. A good plumber will make a living at his work. It's like a mathematical equation. 2 + 2 = 4. If you're a plumber, you're a good plumber, you will make money at it. Even if you're just an average plumber, you'll make money at it. Even a bad plumber can make money at plumbing, as anybody who has hired a plumber off Craigslist knows, I'm sure. But a writer can be a good writer. A writer can be the best writer that ever lived and still not make any money at it. And the small success I've had, that success has not been enjoyed by many writers who are better, much better than me. So it's just a totally different animal. But I spent a lot of my time, I thought I was going to write for God, for His glory, and I think anytime you're dealing with any kind of art, the human tendency is to want to make it about you. And so that's kind of the point I came to when I made some pretty significant decisions in my life. I live in New York now. New York is a different place from here. It's a different language. For instance, they don't know what a buggy is. Like when I go in the store and I say, would you like a buggy? They don't know what that is. They say, oh, a shopping cart or a wrecker. They don't know what a wrecker is. It's a tow truck. When I say wrecker, they had no idea what I was talking about. Or grocery store. It ain't the grocery store, it's the supermarket. Tennis shoes. They think we all play tennis down here because I don't say sneakers, I say tennis shoes. Most of us never played tennis, you know. Toboggan is something you ride down the hill, you know, in the snow. That's what I call it, what you put on your head when it's cold. Pocketbook. They don't say pocketbook. They say purse or handbag. And a truck. Now, I was there one time, and a friend was going to pick me up to take me out to eat. And he said, you'll know me because I'll be driving a black truck. Well, he pulled up in it was like a Jeep or like some kind of SUV. I said, I thought you'd be driving a truck. He said, this is a truck. That's what they call trucks up there. Well, I told him where I'm from, if you can't haul a load of cinder blocks in it, it ain't a truck. So there's a different language, and it's big. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's pretty big. It's bigger, it's louder, it's faster, and it's more expensive. And it's busy. Everything is work up there. Everything you do is work up there. Getting to work is work. You have to just muddle through the crowds, and you have to catch this bus or that train, or if you drive, you have to go find your car that's parked a mile away, and then you have to park a mile away from work. Then you have to. It's just everything is work. You don't see too many overweight people up there, and I'm being serious. And I think it's because people just are moving all the time. You might remember the movie Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, when he's a country boy from Australia, and he's going to New York. He says, wow, 4 million people all wanting to live in the same place. I would imagine New York is the friendliest place in the world. Well, it's not really. But it is friendly in its own way. They're very, because there's so many people, everything's a hustle. They don't trust you at first because there's so many hustles. Everybody's got a game or a wool they're trying to pull over somebody's eyes. And I heard one New Yorker who had spent some time in Georgia. He told me, in the South, they like you till you give them a reason not to. In the North, they dislike you until you give them a reason to like you. So here we give you the benefit of the doubt, but once you've proven yourself to be untrustworthy, you're out. Up there, there's no benefit of the doubt. You have to earn their trust and their respect. But I will say this: once you get to know them, they're as friendly and kind and considerate as anybody I've ever met anywhere. But in New York, you have a cult of money. Everything is about money up there, and it doesn't speak so much to greed as just the necessity of it, because everything is so expensive. So I'm not trying to say that the people in New York are greedy, but they are obsessed with money because the system of New York has made it that money has to be everything, or else you can't make it. A one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan rents for about $1,600 to $2,000 a month. The average property taxes for your house, a 3-bedroom house, is about $11,000 a year. And they're taxed. Everything is a tax. It's like something out of a medieval tale or something. Just everywhere, a tax. And they have a cult of beauty. You walk around Manhattan, all you see are these billboards, these beautiful people smiling and saying, buy this and buy that. Everybody wants to look perfect. There really is like an ideal of perfection that everybody wants to attain. Even the men, when you go down into the workings of the city where the businessmen and the businesses and things are, you'll see men, they're all well groomed, and nobody has a beard like this. The men they have beards, they're close cut, and they're just they look like they stepped out of a GQ magazine. But that's the standard. There really is a cult of that where people want that. They believe that's what's going to bring them some kind of fulfillment or satisfaction. And there's a cult of fame. There's a real idea of celebrity. People want to see which celebrity. Yeah, this celebrity eats here. You've seen in the movies. You go into all the diners. There's all the pictures of all the celebrities who've eaten there and everything. Even me, back when I would go into the city for poetry readings, I had pretty long hair, had the beard and everything, and I got this black leather jacket and everything, and people would stop me and say, "You're somebody." And in New York, that's big, but it's somebody with a capital S. You are somebody, aren't you? I would say, well, yeah, I'm somebody. And it's, no, you're somebody. There's a difference between being a little S somebody and a big S somebody. And sometimes they would take my autograph just assuming that I was somebody when I'm really just nobody, or I'm really just anybody, And there really is a lot of eminence put on celebrity or fame. But do y'all remember, because I'm not that old, but I do remember when you used to have to actually be good at something to be famous. Even Jesse James. Jesse James was a huge celebrity back in the late 1800s. Even he was good at something. He was good at shooting people and robbing banks, but he was good at something. You know, now you don't even have to be good at anything. You just have to do something silly or outrageous or pornographic or whatever. You know, in the old days, a lot of the people we used to see on TV, not only could they act, but they could sing and they could dance. If you wanted to work in Hollywood, you couldn't just go, well, I can sing. They'd say, we already got somebody that can sing. You had to be able to do everything, you know. But what I'm doing up there, it's called 5 loaves and shoe leather, where I take overnight bags, for lack of a better term, to the homeless in the city there. And you know, Gandhi said, there are some in this world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread. Now, if you think about that, we are called to speak the language of the world. We are called to speak in a language that people can understand us. You know, on the day of Pentecost and in the New Testament, when they were speaking in tongues, it was because there was people there that didn't know the language that was being spoken. And God believes that everybody ought to be spoken to. Well, you know, if you see somebody that needs help and you say, I'm praying for you, that's a great thing. But what does that mean to a person who doesn't pray or doesn't know what prayer is? If you say, I love you, what does that mean to a person who doesn't even know what love is? So, but everyone knows hunger. You know, everyone knows thirst. And sometimes we can speak that language, and it gives us the right thing to speak about love or prayer or whatever. And I only have one verse. You don't even have to turn in your Bibles because I'm 100% positive that you know it. In fact, this might be the most well-known verse in all the Bible. And I would say probably most people that know it don't even know it's from the Bible. It's Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, where Jesus said, therefore in all things whatsoever ye would that men would do unto you, do even so unto them, for this is all the law and the prophets. And the translation is the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now some people take that and they try to say that all religions are the same because all religions have this golden rule. Buddhism, for example, Hinduism, the New Age movement, even atheism. Atheism has one of their commandments atheism has a list of commandments because you have to have some kind of commandment or else, you know, nothing's wrong. And it says do no harm. So don't harm anybody. That's their number one commandment. Don't harm anybody. And they say, well, that's the same as what Jesus said, but it's not. Because these other religions, their golden rule says, do not do anything to anyone that you would not have done to you. Jesus' golden rule is proactive. It's not simply that I'm not to do something to you that you don't want done. But if you want something done, I am to do that to you. Or it's not simply that you must not hurt me because you yourself don't want to be hurt. But if I need help, you should help me because you yourself would want help in that area. In other words, if I'm walking down the street and I see a homeless man laying there and I don't kick him, I walk by, but I don't kick him, then I've obeyed this, don't do anything to anyone that you don't want done to you, haven't I? But have I done anything good at all? I've simply abstained from the whole situation. To obey the Hindu or the atheist version of this rule, just to not hurt anybody, really the best thing you would do is to just go climb in a cave somewhere and stay away from everybody. That way you would be sure not to hurt anybody. That's where you get the whole idea of the monks, you know, the Buddhist monks. They believe the only way that I can stay pure is to extract myself from humanity. So that way I can't harm another person. I can't do this. I can't do that. But that's not what Jesus says we ought to do. You know, when he says there are people who would stand before him and say, Jesus says, when you've done this, you've done it unto me. So it wasn't just that they didn't harm him, but it was that they didn't help him. Bottom line is, God doesn't need us to be in caves. God doesn't need us hiding anywhere. He needs us in the mire and in the muck. He needs us in the wilderness. He calls us the salt of the earth. And salt is a preservative. Salt is something that saves something. So you can look at it like this. We're really here to save the world. Like superheroes. You know, man has always dreamed up superheroes. Even from the time back of the Greeks, their gods were basically superheroes like Superman, Batman. We think of it too because there's something in our mind that wants to believe there's somebody with more power than us who can help us when we need help. And so we are those superheroes, but where is our power? You know, Batman, he had his intellect. That was his big power. He had all of his gadgets, but these were all things that he had come up with in his mind, inventions of his. Spider-Man, he had this agility. He could climb these buildings and everything. Superman had this strength. But where does our strength come from? Well, our strength comes from God, who is the supreme intellect of all the universe, the architect of the universe. Spider-Man could climb these buildings, but our God climbed a mountain called Calvary with a big wooden cross on his back, and the sins of the world, the weight of all of our sins, climbed this mountain. And God, who has all the strength in the universe. So the world is crying out to be saved. They always have, and they still are. And we have access to what we need to save them. And will we answer the call? But as far as the homeless, who they are, in New York anyway, they're everyone, all races, sexes, creeds, backgrounds, nationalities. If you have an image in your mind of what a homeless person looks like, that's not it. Because they could be anybody. They could look like anybody. You don't see it too much here in East Tennessee. If you do, you see it in a different way. You know, there are people very, very poor, but not many people homeless. We might have people passing through who are homeless, but of course we do, but not, I don't think, on the scale that you see it there. I'll just give you one example. I was reading poetry at the Bowery Electric. It's a place in downtown Manhattan where it's a pretty famous place where a lot of well-known musicians have performed. And I was standing outside, and this little guy, about 50, comes up pushing this old bicycle. And he looks at me and he says, "Are you the boss man here?" And I said, "I ain't never been the boss in my life." And he said, "Well, I'm needing some work." I said, "Well, you know, I'm performing here. I don't know. They might need somebody to clean up or something." And he just started telling me his whole story. He came here from Colombia or someplace like that, and had been here a few months, I think, and just really having a hard time making it. But he told me, he said, I'll work now. He said, I need some help, but I'll work because I work for my money. He was very embarrassed. He was crying as he talked to me. He was very embarrassed to ask me for help. And he said, "I'll wash your car," because I had $3 I was going to give him. He said, "I'll clean your car." I said, "I don't have my car here." He said, "Well, I'll clean your shoes." And he bent down to clean my old dirty shoes. I said, No, none of that. And I think that was the one thing that really touched my heart enough to where I started to think that maybe this was something that I wanted to do. And what I'm doing, as I said, is just delivering these overnight bags to these homeless people. You don't have to walk very far. You don't really even have to look for them. They're there. And the 5 loaves, you remember the story of where Jesus fed the multitude, and they were wondering how they were going to feed everybody. And there was a little boy, and right there's the first thing that ought to stick out in your mind, because little kids back then weren't what we consider kids now. They were just property, mostly, When the little children came up to Jesus, the adults were offended, We would even think, if we saw Jesus now, we'd send our kids up first, But that's not the way they thought. A child didn't have the same value as a as an adult. And he had his little 5 loaves, and 2 fish. And he didn't know. He just saw the problem. He said, "This is what I got. Maybe you can do something with it." And God was able to feed the whole multitude. And then the shoe leather, of course, really the best way to get to him is to walk, because when you get in the city, really the best way is to walk. And so I told somebody the other day, when he said, "You just kind of work with what you got." And I said, "Well, I got shoes. I don't have much, but I got shoes. And as long as I got shoes, I can walk." So this is something that I'll always be able to do as long as I got shoes and I'm able to walk. And then we take these backpacks. Your home is not just where you live; it's where you keep all your stuff. Now, if you imagine, if you didn't have a place to keep your stuff, if everything you owned you had to keep on your person at all times, something as simple as a little backpack would be hugely significant. And the fact that you have to carry everything with you at all times. What I do sometimes is they'll be sitting somewhere, and as I'm talking to them, I give them a bag and ask them if they need any help. I ask them, "Would you like me to call somebody? Do you need to use my phone? Is there somebody you'd like me to contact?" Even if, a lot of these people are running from something, and they don't want you to know their names. They don't want to know anything personal about you. But I say, if there's somebody you'd like for me to contact, and I could just say, "I met so-and-so, and he's doing okay," then it wouldn't reveal where you are or whatever, Sometimes I'll offer to just watch their stuff, Do you want me to watch your stuff for a few minutes while you go to the bathroom or some, it's a chore going to the bathroom in the city if you ain't got a place to live. It really is. I think we found that out when y'all came up. Everything is hard there, everything. But they're gift bags. And, when they have these big functions like the Academy Awards, and even I've been to some, I was in one in Seattle where we got these gift bags. They paid us to come out there and perform. We got these big gift bags that had all these goodies in it, and most of the stuff I didn't even know what it was, They were gift certificates for things that I wasn't even sure what they were, like a $100 gift certificate to a day spa, and I thought, "Mom, is that one of the things you sit in, in the tub?" I didn't know. But it was all this stuff that was worth a lot of money. And when they have these big functions that these celebrities go to, these fundraisers and Academy Award ceremonies and stuff, they give them all gift bags. I don't know if you know this or not, but this year at the Academy Awards, the celebrities who were there were given bags valued at about $125,000 each bag as a gift. Included were things like mink slippers, iPhones, vacations in Tuscany and Switzerland, and gift certificates for everything from plastic surgery to luxury car rentals to personally engraved candies. Now, the street value of one of our bags is about $20, depending on how much cash is donated, because I do give out a little cash because you have to have some cash up there in that situation. Included are items such as small non-perishable foods. It's all fitting into a backpack about this big, and they have no way to heat anything up. So it has to be things like beanie weenies, like those, like the tuna salad things you can get in the box with the tuna salad and then the pack of crackers. It's got a little spoon, like stuff like that. Bottled water, aspirin, fingernail clippers, ponchos, first aid kits, sanitary wipes, flashlights, socks, feminine hygiene products, toothbrushes, toothpaste, hats, gloves, writing materials, and candy, things like that. And most of these things can be found at the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree is my favorite store because what other store can you think of that you can walk into that store with $1 in your pocket and you can afford anything in that store? Not that you can afford something in that store. Imagine walking into Walmart with $1 and thinking, I can buy anything in this whole store. I love it. But most of these things can be picked up at the Dollar Tree. And we give these gift bags to the homeless. It's not much, but it might be enough to help them get through one night. And sometimes one night can make all the difference in the world. And they don't have to get dressed up to get them. They don't have to pose for cameras or pause for interviews. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't even have to stand up. We go to where they are because we believe this is how celebrities should be treated. And there are celebrities. And this is what they need. They don't need somebody just to not kick them. Not just somebody to feel sorry for them. But someone to stoop down and place their hand on their shoulder and say, "You are important to me. You are my celebrity." So, that's pretty much it. It might not seem like much. Right now, there's over 70,000 homeless people in New York City alone. Right now, it's just me and some kind folks in New York who are kind enough to donate to the cause. But God don't need much, really, to do great things. In fact, I think He prefers the small things. He glories in the small things. And I wanted to say this, because this ties into what Dad was saying about glory. We think about glory all the time. We talk about it all the time. But sometimes I don't think we think about what it is exactly. The writer C.S. Lewis was trying to decide what glory was, and he decided it can be one of two things. It can either be luminescence, like light, or it can be fame. So glory is either luminescence or fame. And he said the first one didn't really appeal to me because the idea of being a light bulb is not really something that I would find too appealing. And he said the second, fame, also didn't appeal to him because just the word fame seems to have a kind of negative connotation to it. That all these people with all this fame seem to have all these problems, and with fame seems to come all this corruption. And he decided that what true glory is fame with God. Not when people applaud you, but when God applauds you. Not when people know your name, but when God knows your name. And so God applauds the small things. It says in the Bible, He uses the foolish to confound the wise. And when Jesus was on this earth, He picked tax collectors and prostitutes. He picked fishermen, and you can't get much more dishonest than that. He chooses who He believes in. And I think it's a very glorious God, a very unique God, who would applaud something as simple as a pair of fingernail clippers or a cup of cold water given in His name. So, when we stand in God's presence, and we all long for the day when He says, because I was thirsty and you gave me drink, because I was hungry and you gave me food, because I was naked and you gave me clothing, because I was homeless and you gave me shelter, because I was a prisoner and you visited me. And because we did those things. And then we say, who did we do them to? And Jesus said, well, when you did it to any of the least of these, you've done it unto me. Well done, my good and faithful servant. And then we hear the applause of heaven. And then when we meet Jesus, this is what I believe real glory is and what we all should strive for. When we meet Him and we say, I've waited for this moment for a long time. And He looks back at us and says, so have I. So I thank y'all. Thank y'all for listening. If anybody wants to know anything else about it, I'll tell you about it after the service. So thank you.